The biggest challenge to constant electricity supply in Nigeria is the incessant attack on electricity installations by vandals, insurgents and bandits, among others. This unpatriotic act has affected Nigerians in a way that can only be imagined. For instance, the recent vandalism of electricity installations along Shiroro-Kaduna 33 kV line 1 and 2 plunged most parts of northern Nigeria into a total darkness. According to recent data from the Federal Ministry of Power, between January and August 2024, vandals destroyed 63 power transmission towers across Nigeria. Today, Nigerians woke up with the news from the Transmission Company of Nigeria reporting another vandalism with 3 towers on the 330 kV Lokoja-Gwagwalada transmission destroyed. The vandalism of the electricity installations is worsening Nigeria's already strained electricity supply, undermining government's efforts to improving power generation. This and more will be the focus of Nigeria Today. I am Ikaria Clinton, and thanks for joining us. Joining me in the studio for the conversation is Dr. Kingsley Uzoma. He's a security expert and the chief consultant, Eagle Rescue and Alarm System. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Now, this problem is becoming, worrisome. So, Mr. Kingsley, Dr. Kingsley, tell us, why do you think electrical installations have become a frequent target for vandals?
Because let me use the word that the environment permits it, in the sense that it's profitable for the vandals to destroy these critical infrastructures, which you can say go unprotected, because you here in Abuja, across major areas, even here where you have transformers, so the scavengers, locally named as babambolas, would see them having access to transformers, the armored cables that goes with it and what have you. Then I think about sometime in July, I went to Kano via road. We took assessment. So from Kaduna itself down to Kano, you see that all the power infrastructures there have been vandalized over time. So because it takes time. Maybe today is just to cut an inch or an aspect of the cable over time. So had it been you have security agencies, like for instance the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, part of their mandate is critical infrastructure protection. So over time, because these vandals is not something they just jump into there and they move it instantly. Most times for the critical power infrastructure, it takes time over and over. Because nobody is policing these critical assets, it becomes much more easier for them to vandalize. Then after the vandalism, where does it end up? In the market. Because on the part of government, we are not really scrutinizing and regulating effectively on the sales of power infrastructures and what have you. Most times when some of these things are vandalized, they find their way back into the market, and the same government or private agencies and contractors buy it back to do repairs for the same state.
Okay, you've talked so much about security operatives not being readily available around this infrastructure, critical infrastructure. Now, what about the community? Because most of these people that do this destruction of critical infrastructure, they come from communities, and of course they must have been seen by 1 or 2 persons from these communities do this thing. What is the role of the community members in protecting these critical infrastructure?
Well, the role of the community, ordinarily it should have been their job to protect. But you see, the nature of our environment today demand that most people within the community and rural area, they have this what we call I don't care attitude or mentality, because it's seen as property of the government. that is the culture, okay, because people are after their daily bread, trying to meet their needs, and most times you see that even their children or somebody somehow related to them are party to these vandals, and the resources, the funds from it, add one or two things to their meals. Okay, so it's another way of them benefiting from the what you call some national cake. Okay, because some doesn't see anything morally wrong to vandalize what you call state critical infrastructure and profit from it. So that's part of that moral decadence in the society.
So what role will awareness, creating awareness and the likes to prevent situations like this? Because just like you said, some persons feel it's government property. They don't even see that their own property, which is, of course, how will I put it, unpatriotic. Because if you don't see a particular thing as your own, you say, okay, it's government. Who is the government? We are the government.
Okay, see, in the first place, these powers, the light generations are not regular. So if the government have not lived up, the Ministry of Power have not lived up to their responsibility of guaranteeing 24/7 power supply, what do you think the people will do? Because over time we hear of national grid collapse and what have you. It's not only the activities of vandals. If you follow the trend, like some analysts would have it, it's like maybe when power want to change and they battle, maybe another contractors want to sabotage the existing contractors because there is a change of government. So you make the existing contractors look so incompetent, you sponsor vandals to be able to vandalize. So if it occur over time, Nigerians will shout, government, what have you, and this, just like what we had a few days ago, the reoccurrence of the collapse of the national grid. And that means those currently handling it are incompetent, or there is something they are not getting right. So there will be need for another agency or consulting firm to send their own proposals, say, no, government, Ministry of Power, we can do X, Y, Z to get it better. And it goes. But the moment you are able to get things right, and you don't have that, you see that batting power will not change hand in that regards. And one thing about the vandals, that's why there is need for job creation and national reorientation, whereby maybe some people are out of school, they have nothing to eat, and whatever they lay their hand onto comes to their rescue. So that's why maybe it mustn't be job from 6 to 7, factory job, daily job can be done in such a way, the way it's done elsewhere, that it's hourly. Do you understand? One can, maybe when you need money, you can go inside, fill form, and be able, after the profiling, be able to maybe work for 4 hours, 3 hours, and get paid so that you can feed your family. But the moment you can't find a thing like that, is the monthly pay or weekly becomes a problem.
Okay, we'll take a short break now and listen to some Nigerians on these incessant vandalism of electrical installations in Nigeria, as put together by Okpanachi Arua. To stay with us.
The government had to put some measures in place to curb all this issue of vandals. You know, they always do this thing just to weaken the economy of this country. The government should bring a measure against those men, set up a task force to deal with them massively.
But the people that should support now, they are now the one working against, you know, the efforts of the government, frustrating the effort. And they are doing it because of the criminal intent they have, so that by the time there's a blackout everywhere, they will have time to strike. So anyone of them that is caught, they should not be spared at all. They should deal with them.
That awareness must be created to know the importance of public utilities, such as the national grid that is under attack today. So government should need this in the board on time before this matter escalates. And it is also imperative to know that Mr. President cannot solve everything. Nigerians will also have a duty to support Mr. President to succeed. So if some few want to give us a bad name, we should call them, irrespective of their political or religion or tribe affiliation, to call them to order.
One of the things that we must understand is that we are the future of this country, and we are saddled with the responsibility of protecting what we have. Let's not be part of people who will wreck the nation. Rather, let's be part of those people who would build the nation.
To youth, stop vandalizing these things, because these things are our own. Let us manage this thing and wait to the time that youth will be in power.
Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today. We are looking at the vandalism of electrical installations in Nigeria, and of course we have we are just being joined in the studio by Kunle Kola Olubiyo. He's the president, Nigeria Consumer Protection Network, and member, National Technical Investigative Panel on Power System Collapse 2023. Glad to have you on Nigeria
It's
Today.
my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Dr. Kingsley Uzoma is still in the studio with us. Now, Kunle, you know, this is the vandalism of electrical installations that become, you know, will I say a daily occurrence now, and becoming somewhat embarrassing. So I want you to tell us, let us, to put it in proper perspective, what are the main reasons, or what do you think is the main reason why we are behind the rise in the vandalism of electrical installations?
Well, thank you. Like you've said, it's worrisome. Critical assets, they are pivotal to national development, and whatever may be our own side of divide is of great benefit to Nigeria. So it's national sabotage, looking at it from security point of view. But as much as we might be worried and concerned, it still goes down to the issue of funding. Because all over the world now, technology has gone beyond, because you have 47,000 towers. 47,000 towers spread into over 8,000 kilometers. Traversing the forest and very, terrain that is not really easy for even motorization, except you use those days you have the helicopter, and you cannot even deploy the Civil Defense Corps to cover the massive terrain that this critical infrastructure covers. Because it's not the type of manpower within the Civil Defense Corps. You can't use them to cover the entire country landscape, where this 47,000 towers spread into 330 kilovolts and 132. So what we need to do is deployment of technology. You know, technology these days, like GPS and other satellite-linked technology, has really helped countries. Like the Nigerian Immigration Service, they have control center, they have the FOB, where proactively or preventive surveillance of migration, proper migration management. So for that, from the border, with GPS technology or satellite technology, you can monitor real-time locations, and you equally deploy drone. There are a lot that's got to do with this that cannot be discussed in national TV in the soup. You know, one of the challenges that we have is that the management of our security sometimes have some level of loopholes. In the course of trying to manage security, about last week or 2 weeks ago, when the transmission company of Nigeria was reeling out some strategic information, sometimes you give information in the course of trying to convince the public. Even when there are threats from insurgents or so, sometimes there are security architecture information that will give, that we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing that. Sometimes it equally helps to project the loopholes. So security information are so sensitive that they have to be properly managed. So with the right technology, it's all about technology. We need to put more investment. So what we have at the moment is like having a truck or putting a truck on the road, articulate vehicle without a brake in it. apart from the vandalization of the towers that we have experienced along the Lokoja-Abuja corridor, which was done by, I think, the Independent Power Project and Giregu Power Plant. That's where you have that, we have within that corridor. What has happened has shown that government now is in an emergency situation. We need to put more funds into security. Technology will address some of these issues. You know, even when people are moving on the line, you can see them from the base station, as it were. And that is just the way out. The strategic information, interagency synergy, the security, there are a lot of security institutions they are not short of proposals on what to do. It's just that, as said in local parlance, better soup than money killer. You get my point. And so it's worrisome, but we just need to invest this thing. And it's not something that the transmission company of Nigeria and federal government should approach it as business. It's not something that you have to do with night vigil or fasting and prayer. No, this is the time to move. Because if you are asking even the local vigilante to deploy their manpower, you have to treat it like business. Like in the Niger Delta region, where we are policing our oil infrastructure, federal government is paying for intelligence.
Okay, now you're talking about funding. Do you think that the money that's been deployed to the power sector is not enough to address the situation?
Well, I spoke earlier today on your program, Insights, and I was equally on another program earlier this morning in Kakaki AIT. And what I've said in most of this program is the fact that what we have, in the true sense of it, is a drop in the ocean. The amount of money required to bring the power sector to speed is beyond public sector funding. Let us face the truth. We cannot continue to keep the transmission company of Nigeria as maybe national assets and try to manage it, because the public sector financial management model or template for the transmission company of Nigeria for this year, the budget for the power sector is about 400 billion. And already we have a debt of 2.5 trillion naira to the generation company. We have a tariff shortfall from the market of 3 trillion. So if you aggregate the two together, it's 5.5 trillion. So the 400 billion naira, our legacy debt alone is not enough. And some of these debt, they are, like if you take for example the NTA or Radio Nigeria Kaduna, sometimes ago Radio Nigeria was now about 300 to 400 million. If we take an energy audit of some of these debt and take historical record of some of the meters, the MD meters, you discover that in spite of the fact that you are in postpaid meter, some of the bills that you have been given are not scientific, they are over bloated. So some of this debt might need to be interrogated. But as we speak to you, the figure we have is about 5.5 trillion. So what we need to do moving forward as a nation and as patriotic Nigerians is to make sure that we let go, like what was said in the Holy Book, say, let my people go. It is time for us to be allowed to cross the Red Sea. Whoever is holding on to transmission company of Nigeria as an asset to be preserved as a cash cow is not being fair to younger generation of Nigeria. What do I mean? Electricity is nucleus, is at the center of job creation, social security, and national development. So we cannot continue to remain stagnated.
I'll have to stop you here so that I'll come back to you. You talk to us more about what you, so you elaborate more on what you're talking about. Now, back to you, Dr. Kingsley. Now, he's talked so much about leveraging on technology. Okay. What areas do you think we can leverage technology to secure our installations?
Beyond technology, it has to do with culture. The culture of the people, okay, because the citizens, the people of the communities, the owners of the environments where these power stations traverses through, they need to first own it, know that is a national asset that belongs to us all, and it needs to be criminalized in the sense that any vandalism, maybe the community head, the DPOs and others will be held responsible. Okay, in some other nations where vandalism happens, the local police, like the divisional police officer, are even held accountable by the same government why such happened under his watch. So we need to borrow such a leave. And the situation whereby, for instance, you have electrical markets where things like this are sold with ease. Okay, because we shouldn't be having markets where you can just go with ease to buy a high-powered electrical asset. So if these things, if they are not ready markets for some of these products or appliances or equipment, you will see that the rate of vandalism and stealing will be minimal.
So in other words, you're recommending maybe a harsher penalty for corporates?
Yeah, penalty for corporates, and beyond that, government needs to be very strict in regulating those who sell electrical appliances. I shouldn't build house and just walk somewhere in Gudu to buy key equipment like feeder pillars, transformers, parts, and what have you with ease without going through the channel of the government to apply, so they can scrutinize and have accredited sales and distribution agents. And over time, you need to police those who are selling some of these equipments, because they buy it with ease from these guys, repolish it, clean it, and it goes. So that's why in some countries, even within this same West Africa, most of these equipment, they now have with serial number, barcode, that you can authenticate their source and what have you. But not a situation whereby something is stored somewhere here in Kaduna, like I told you the last one we monitored, and it found its way here in Abuja in Gudu. Then contractors of the same government will still buy the same stolen equipment that they know to fix the challenge. It's really the more reason that we need to really invest in the culture of the people.
Okay. Now, back to you, Kunde. You were talking about, bringing in the private sector, if I understand what you're trying to say. So will this stop the high rate of vandalism of the electrical installations?
You see, it's quite unfortunate, like in the oil and gas sector, it's a tripod. You have the vendors, you have the contractor, and you have the government officials. When national ethic, like you said, is broken down, this tripod comes to play. You have seen from intelligence what is called in official parlance, official bunkering, so to say, in our understanding. You've seen some officials engage as state actors, and sometimes they find themselves being compromised. There have been cases like that. We've seen several panels, what we call court-martial, in the military institution, where people who are given the responsibility of public trust compromising because of the trappings of the criminal crime and criminality that they are expected to control. So what we say in essence is that it's good to create some level of community engagement. What the federal government has done, I said it time without number, that if we cannot sermonize, because I'm in Nigeria and I pay my bills. My bills not being paid on behalf of federal government. So if I have my foot soldiers, if I have my team in the community, if you must engage me or my team, like you are doing with the Tompolos and what have you. Federal government pay a lot for intelligence, and the intelligence community all over the world equally pay for intelligence. So if we must get effective result, while we are applying the use of technology or deploying the use of technology, like I've said, we must equally know that we need to make budget. We cannot sermonize. Because those in the TCN, they have budget and they are living large. So nobody will just go to community on sentiment. So we must be ready to create this community synergy and technology in order to move forward.
Thank you very much. That was Kunle Kola Oluwiyo, his president, Nigeria Consumer Protection Network, and member National Technical Investigative Panel on Power System Collapse 2023. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution. And we also had Dr. Kingsley Uzoma, a security expert and chief consultant, Eagle Rescue and Alarm System. Thank you so much for your time and contribution. And thank you for being part of the program. I am Victoria Clinton. Goodbye.